everyone, it's Sarah. Thanks for joining me, and today we're going to be making this card which I made for the Magical Meadow Creative Challenge. It came about because I really like, as you know, the ink box card where I made a little square print and put some stamping inside there. So I was thinking along those lines but wanted to make it bigger. So I got out sticker stencil 5 and found the square, sorry about the reflection. So I've made my, I've cut my piece of card just about that size. So it's 12.7 centimetres square in multifarious and one of the bigger cards. So let's get cracking. So like I say, this is the square from sticker stencil set 1. Mine's gone a bit, it's got a slight loop because I was a bit impatient and used the heat tool to kind of try and dry it. And obviously, as you probably know from other sticker stencils, this, well, even the bigger ones really, it's plastic, so it's gonna melt if you make it hot. But it's still working, so we're okay. Just give it a bit of a squidge around there. Now I'm using the biggest size brush only because I seem to have recoloured my my number 7s and I don't have a green one anymore, so I need to get back into it. But for now I've got a nice chunky green one, but I would normally have used this size. So I'm going to use Pixie Green and green sleeves, and I'm going to get my stencil out. Let's get some green on here. So I'm going round the edges mainly. I'm struggling with my voice today, so I do apologise. I sound a bit croaky. I tried drinking multiple cups of tea before I started making the video. And if I hold it here and just lift it up, I can see whether I want to add a bit more. I think that's fine. And what I did was, so that's green sleeves. So I left my stencil in place and just went round the edge with a darker green. So this is Pixie Green, just to add a bit of depth really and define that straight edge of the square. And you can waft your brush over lightly in the middle. It's a bit of pale centre. Do you know, I might just clean my brush off a little bit around the edges, just so that that white isn't quite so stark. And obviously it's also a great way of getting your brush clean. Now I'm going to get my water spray out, and as you can see, we're going to get some nice splatters and splodges. And because I'm not going to dry it with the heat tool, I'm going to leave it to dry. We'll get some, probably some bigger splatters as the water puddles and combines with the ink and then spreads out a little. So this is going to look different every time you do it really, and you can obviously mop it up with a kitchen roll once it gets to a certain point if you want, but we'll just give it a few more seconds to do its thing. I don't want to lift off too much of the colour, which would happen if it's a puddle with the kitchen roll, but equally I want to crack on. Let's give it a bit of a dab. That's good. Multifarious will take quite, you know, in that amount of water really. It reacts really nicely with water. You can lift up the colour. So I'm happier using multifarious card for this kind of thing. So that needs a second. So I'm going to leave it for a minute maybe for it to dry and then come back to you. Right, so that's dry. It's had about a minute. I'm going to stamp my snail cap mushrooms next. I'm using both sizes that are in the set and stamping with Nocturne, which my ink pad is feeling a little dry. So I'm just going to grab a piece of paper and just check how it's doing. Oh no, it's fine. I think it's a quick and easy thing to do as well actually if you're stamping and you're not, well, I was going to say hugely confident, but I still do it. You might describe me as a confident stamper, as confident as you can get with something that can change because you've not inked something correctly or whatever. But I'll often stamp just on a piece of paper, almost as to remind myself that I can stamp before I start a project. So a little tip there, right, give it a minute. There we go. There's our lovely snail cap mushroom. Let's swap for the second one. So I've got it, as you can see, coming off the square slightly, and they're a little jaunty angle. I was going to say wonky, but I prefer jaunty. And there we go. Going to add some stars. These are one of our minis, Mini Star Group is its name. And I'm going to use Shady Lane to stamp these. And again, just grab my piece of paper to see how it's stamping. And just going to scatter them around, turning them so they're not always at the same angle, hopefully. Because I think if it's a Magical Meadow, there's going to be sparkle and stars about, is where I was thinking. And it's just been, the weather's just been so grey, hasn't it, recently? I'm lucky to live in the countryside now, so I have experienced lots of nice greenery despite the grey. That's when it wasn't buried in fog. But I've just embraced the green for this project. I want to stamp some just behind that toadstool mushroom there, so I'm just going to mask it off with the edge of a piece of paper. Around there. I might pop a couple around here as well, if they're coming underneath. There we go. So that's our sparkle and our stars. The words at the bottom here are from the bottom of the text stamp See a Fairy. Now this is old and is stained by pink, because pink does that, but at the very bottom, I don't know whether you can see that, it does say a magical moment. I've not done this for a while actually. It's something I used to do quite a lot of. And it's just choosing some of the words out of a stamp to stamp rather than the whole thing. This one is particularly nice because there's a nice big gap between those two last lines. So I can dab, I'm using the end, well, you can see at the end of my ink pad and just inking that up. I'm going to grab a baby white just to wipe round, make sure I haven't got any. I can see a tiny smidge on that A. And again, this is something I'll ink up and then I'll do it on my piece of paper so I know I'm heading in the right direction. It's a very juicy baby white. Just give it a, let's find my Inky Binky off Sue, my very own pink one. Thanks, Sue. Try that off. Right, I'm going to risk it for a biscuit. And I'm going to stamp that just at the bottom. Hopefully you can just about see that. It's a little darker on this sample than it was on this one, so maybe I should have put it in the gap up there, but it's magical. It might be slightly hidden and that's okay. And then we're nearly done. I'm going to colour the shrooms first before I add some inky splatters, a little bit of sparkle there, because I need to have the mask on the whole time effectively. So I'm going to get my pad of paper to lean on, just for, I just like a bit of extra padding. I'm using a pink, a purple, a blue and a brown Mondeluz. Obviously you can colour your mushrooms any colour that you like. So this is just where I'm going. I'm starting pressing a bit harder down where it's going to be darker, and then I kind of lift my pencil off lightly. So I'm imagining the light's coming from this direction. It's going to be darker at the bottom. The stamps often help you to know where to make it a bit darker. And then this one's the other way, just the way the stamp's designed, so it's maybe the light's coming directly down. Missed a bit. There we go. And I'm not going to add any water this time. I'm just going to leave them as with the coloured pencil effect. I'm going to grab my favourite of the moment white pen. This is the Mangaka opaque liner, and I can get the lid off. It makes the tiniest of dots, so it's perfect for adding onto these little dots here, just to brighten them up. But like I say, you can colour your shroom your favourite colours, and you can use gel pen, you could use Posca for your little dots. There we go. If I want to, I could also add a little bit of highlight on here, just a very, very light line. I'm kind of almost just tickling the page. Shading has actually given us quite a lot of that. And then it's just time for some splattering. I'm splattering silver, which kind of comes out quite subtly on the card. Let me grab a brush. I'm going to wet my brush in my water. I'll give this a shake. Let's give it a splatter. And again, you can choose your colour of ink. You could use a wet collection of watercolour paint. You can make yourself a little puddle. Or you can do a Posca splat, but as you know, that's not in my skill set. So this is how I'm doing mine. And then we can just peel this off. Make sure not to get any dirty fingerprints around the side. And we've got a framed image that we can just add to a card. So thanks for joining me. Please let me know if you have a go yourself, and I'd love to see them. Take care.